I'm Ranger Meg with Tennessee State Parks. For today's backyard botany video, we're going to talk about a very common plant indeed, the dandelion. You probably don't have to venture very far right now to find one of these plants blooming. There's probably one in your yard, or maybe even growing between a crack in the sidewalk or against the curb on your street. Unfortunately, a lot of people think of dandelions as being pesky weeds, and they go to a lot of trouble to keep them out of their lawns by spraying them with chemical herbicides. However, as we'll learn today, dandelions are actually very useful plants, good for humans and good for wildlife too. First of all, let's talk about the name, dandelion. It comes from the French, dent de lion, which simply means tooth of the lion. Let me show you why. If you'll look at the leaf, you'll see that it's deeply lobed with these sharp points. So it looks like a lion's tooth. Now, these leaves are going to grow in a spiral pattern low to the ground. Does anybody remember that term from last week's video? It's called a basal rosette. Let me see if I can show you. Hang on. So if you'll look here, the leaves are spiraling outward low to the ground, and that's called a basal rosette. Anyway, out of this basal rosette is going to grow a smooth, leafless, hollow stalk. I don't know if you can see that it's hollow. At the top of that stalk is where we see the flowers. Now, although it might look like I'm just holding one flower, I'm actually holding a lot of flowers. In botany, this is called a composite inflorescence. And each one of those little yellow strips is its own individual floret. Now, when these florets go to seed, they're going to produce a fruiting body. Those are called achenes. And each of those fruiting bodies is going to hold its individual seed on a little fluffy parachute. You guys all know what that looks like, right? The puffball. In fact, puffball is another name for the plant of dandelion. I'll get closer so you can see each one of those little individual seeds with its little fluffy parachute. Everybody knows that you want to make a wish and puff the seeds away. That parachute makes the seeds float away on the wind, and that aids in the spread and dispersal of dandelions, which is part of why they're such a common plant. Another reason the dandelions are so common is because of their long taproot. This taproot is able to push down below hard, dry soil, or maybe even through cracks in the concrete. And that enables the plant to find water and nutrients deep below the surface. And that helps them grow in less than ideal growing conditions, which is part of the reason why you see dandelions growing everywhere. Now, all parts of the dandelion plant are edible. The root can be dried, roasted, and ground up to make a substitute for coffee or a very healthy tea. The flowers can be battered and fried. You may have heard of dandelion wine. They can be fermented into wine. You can also take the buds and pickle them, eat them like capers. The leaves are probably the most commonly eaten part of the dandelion plant. You might hear them called dandelion greens. In some places, they're actually farmed, cultivated just for this use. Now, you can pick them and throw them in salads and eat them raw when they're young. As they get older, they tend to get a little bit more bitter. Still edible, but you might want to first soak them in baking soda or blanch them in boiling water to kind of reduce that bitterness. A word of caution, if you do decide that you want to eat dandelions, make sure that you pick them from a place that you know hasn't been sprayed with herbicides or chemicals. But you should want to eat them because dandelions are extremely healthy. They've been used for a long time in traditional medicine to reduce fevers, to reduce swelling, to help aid in digestion. They're full of vitamins and minerals, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin C, iron, calcium, potassium, magnesium, and they're also chock full of antioxidants. Because of this, today people think that dandelions would probably be good for a variety of ailments like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, and they're supposed to be healthy for your eyes as well. Now, dandelions aren't only just useful and good for humans, they're also great for wildlife too. The blossoms provide a very important source of pollen and nectar in the early spring for honeybees and other pollinators. The greens are a very nutritious source of food for small herbivores and other grazing animals. The roots can even be dug up and eaten by certain animals, like bears if needed. Another interesting fact about dandelions is that they produce latex. I'm going to see if I can show you. When I break the stem, it exudes a milky white substance right on the edge of the break. That's latex. In some places, cultivars of dandelions that will produce a high amount of latex are being bred in the hopes that they might be able to be used commercially to produce rubber. Now, I know we talked about dandelions being a weed, and a lot of people go to a lot of trouble to keep them out of their lawns, but actually, dandelions are really beneficial to the topsoil and other plants. It's because of that deep taproot system that we talked about. It's pulling nutrients and minerals from deep below up to the top of the surface to the topsoil. So, as you can see, dandelions really are dandy little plants. Latex, food, medicine, wildlife. It seems that they're not just pretty and nice to look at, but they're also pretty valuable. So I hope what you've learned today will help you appreciate dandelions as more than just a pesky weed. Get outside and explore this common but amazing little plant as you explore the botany of your own backyard. Thanks.